So what if your lawn gnomes were not only alive, but also violently territorial? Hey people, voice talking to you, and this is Gnomes, a roguelike tower defense where we must build up an army of vicious lawn gnomes to defend our garden from hordes of goblins. If you're ready to take a stand against the little green guys trampling your crops, there's a link for you down in the description where you can check this game out for yourself. Right next to that is a link to my original playthrough in case you'd like to see some more gameplay and my first impressions. Now this game has no story or lore from the looks of it, which is fine. That said, the addition of some sort of campaign mode with pre-made levels and special challenges to overcome would probably increase the playtime of this game quite a bit. As it is, there's only survival mode, where we must defend our garden shed for a total of 16 days. The shed is our central building, and each time a goblin enters it, we lose 1 health. When our health reaches 0, the garden shed is destroyed, and we lose the run. Before we begin a run, we can choose which clan of gnomes we're running with. Each clan has a different starting gnome, crops, houses, and starting buffs. That said, there isn't a ton of different buildings right now, and you can acquire most of the items from the other clans during a run. To defend the shed, we'll need to employ gnomes, which will serve as our towers in this game. Each class of gnome sports a different weapon, range, and attack pattern. Additionally, each gnome has its own damage values, cooldown times, and even special abilities like Pierce or Stun. Each gnome also has its own goofy-sounding name, which seems funny and pointless until you realize each gnome also has its own XP and levels. Higher level gnomes attack faster and deal more damage, but the only way for them to level up is by racking up kills. Garden gnomes aren't free, however, and each one will need a house to stay in. Managing population and gold economy are extremely important aspects of survival, so players will need to build houses and plant crops to provide space and afford new buildings and gnomes. With the gold we earn each day, we can unlock new buildings or gnomes in the shop. We can also purchase artifacts which serve as run-wide buffs and often drastically shift the direction of your build. That's right, there are builds in this game. Two simple but very different examples are artifacts that give buffs to gnomes that are alone, and others that boost gnomes that stand adjacent to one another. Adjacency and positioning are huge in this game, and the terrain itself also plays a role in planning your defense. There's marshy terrain which will slow enemies down, we're not allowed to build on. There's also trees and rocks that'll block movement. Most crops can only be planted on fertile soil, and that is often a rather scarce terrain type. Crops aren't just there for cash either, and some can weaken enemies, boost gnomes, or even deal damage to enemies that run by them. We can also cultivate weeds outside our garden to serve as barriers or traps for unwary foes. As it goes with these kinds of games, each day a new and more difficult horde of goblins will attack. Fortunately, all they care about is reaching the shed, so they won't destroy our gnomes or houses, unless they're carrying explosives, of course. Oh. They also won't march through your crops on purpose, and as I mentioned, you can turn the garden into a death trap anyways. The real kicker here is that the map gets bigger each round, and the goblins will move their spawn points each day too, meaning they'll never attack the same way twice. Different goblin types will provide different challenges, such as speed boosts, swarms, armor, or even building roads to your front door. Fortunately for us, we can see their intended routes before the day begins, and can prepare accordingly, or place gnomes in buildings to block their paths. No, we cannot completely block off our shed, but we can force detours into damaging terrain or group enemies together for AoE attacks. The different enemy types really help keep the experience fresh, and when you suddenly start dealing with flying enemies that you can't deter with barriers, you'll see what I mean. This solid mix of strategy and terrain mechanics makes for a really addicting loop too, and at the end of a run we can unlock new maps and clans by completing challenges. Aside from its charming retro style, tactile UI, and great sound design, that's all there really is to this game right now. I'm admittedly not certain how the developers plan to flesh this one out. I mean, is it going to just be a more robust version of the survival mode? Is there going to be a campaign or challenge modes? I don't know. But honestly, from what I've seen, this game's probably going to be a hit for those who want something that doesn't demand too much while still offering some strategic depth in a fun and relaxing setting. I'm also just the voice in your head, though, so what do you think about Gnomes? The game, that is, not the mythical creature. Would you be happy with just survival mode here, or do you want something a bit more linear? Do you like the art style, or is it a bit too old-fashioned for you? What do you think of the gameplay? Is it something that you've seen too many times, or is this a fresh take on a very busy genre? Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, leaving a like helps get the channel through the algorithm and keeps the gnomes busy. Please. They're watching me. If you want to see more, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep new content coming your way because I put out new stuff every single week. Thanks so much for listening to me today, and you'll be hearing from me again real soon. I love that sound effect. That's so good.